Welcome to my dissertation defense presentation. My name is Nadia Ali, and the title of my study is The Struggle is Real, a qualitative case study on the impact of role strain on non-traditional female business graduate students. During my presentation, I'm going to go over my problem statement, a short overview of my literature review, the purpose statement, my research questions, the theoretical framework and methodology that drove my research, the overview of my findings, the implications of my findings, and my distribution plan. And then I have my references for you at the end. So dating back to the 1980s, the United States has seen a higher enrollment and steady increase in female students over male students in post-secondary programs. In 2019, women led in both traditional and non-traditional enrollment. Considering the changing student population trends, higher education institutions need to ensure that their programs effectively cater to this unique needs of the female students, specifically non-traditional female students. My study focuses specifically on non-traditional female students in a business graduate program. The problem statement for my study is business graduate programs fail to adequately support the needs of non-traditional female students and the various roles they must fill while enrolled as students. My literature review was divided into 4 components: the history of women in graduate programs, the non-traditional student, barriers and challenges, and role strain. The first section, the history of women in graduate programs. To understand the female graduate students of today, it's crucial to understand the history of women in graduate programs. The key sources for this section were Carleton 2021, Lewis 2023, and Tuttle 2004. This section serves as historical background. The second section of my literature review is a non-traditional student. The National Center for Education Statistics provided the foundational data for the literature review, defining the various criteria set forth by the U.S. Department of Education of a non-traditional student. Additionally, the NCES was my source of enrollment data. The key sources for the remainder of this section were Blake et al. 2023, which highlighted the importance of strategies to support persistence in the non-traditional student population. Marsman 2014 provided insight on non-traditional students and the unique challenges that they face. And Moore et al. 2020 studied the mental health needs of non-traditional students compared to traditional students, finding that the non-traditional subpopulation to be more demographically diverse and presenting with different concerns and challenges. The third section was barriers and challenges, and Cross 1981 and Shelton 2021 were my key sources for this section. Cross 1981 defined the 3 elements of the barriers to adult learning, which are situational, institutional, and dispositional. And over 4 decades later, these barriers are still a challenge. Shelton conducted a study in 2021 based on Cross's barriers and found that all 3 barriers had an impact on the non-traditional students' ability to access and pursue higher education. And finally, my last section was role strain, and Good at 1960 was the key source in this section of the literature review. Good delves into the multitude of ways role strain presents in individuals and the effects of each, stating that role strain is both expected and inevitable. The purpose statement of my study, the purpose of this qualitative single case study was to understand the impact role strain has on non-traditional female business graduate students and to explore how graduate schools might help to mitigate that impact. The research questions that drove my study, the first is, how do non-traditional female graduate students feel that role strain impacts their success in a business master's program? And the second, what measures do non-traditional female graduate students feel master's programs could take to lessen the impact of role strain? The theoretical framework that drove my study was developed by William J. Good in 1960, and it was the theory of role strain. Role strain is the felt difficulty in fulfilling role obligations, and this theory explains that when an individual cannot fulfill all the expectations associated with their multiple life roles, that's when role strain occurs. My study used this theory to understand the impact on the success of non-traditional female business graduate students and how master's programs can enact change to reverse or lessen the negative effect role strain has on the student population. The theory of role strain shaped the research questions and data collection protocols, as well as informing the data assessment. Both data collection protocols aligned with the theory of role strain, providing data about the various aspects of role strain. According to Good, role strain relates to the challenges in fulfilling the responsibilities and obligations of an individual's role. The data collected aligned with the framework, providing insight into these challenges. The methodology of my research study, the research design, this was a qualitative, holistic, single case study. I chose a qualitative research design because answering my research questions required human experience as well as understanding the meaning behind these experiences. And I chose a case study to allow for study participants to share their experiences through anecdotal accounts, allowing for a rich description of the graduate school experience. I did not have a physical site where I conducted my study. My participants were recruited from LinkedIn, which is a social networking platform for professionals. My participants were 4 female non-traditional students. They were either currently enrolled or had completed a master's in business administration, an MBA, or a specialized master's an MS degree. My data collection protocols, I had a survey and then a one-on-one interview with each participant. After analyzing both data sources, I established 26 initial codes, which were categorized into 3 themes. I then associate thematic statements with each to classify and summarize the findings of my study. And I'm going to go over that. The first categorical theme was role strain impacts. The thematic statements that summarize my study findings were, the first is participants experienced role strain managing the responsibilities of their various roles in conjunction with the role of student. These findings align to what Cross 1981 and Shelton 2021 found. The second was time management, and the feeling of not having enough time impacted their ability to fulfill the responsibilities associated with each role. These findings align to Good's theory of role strain. And then the third, missing time with family and loved ones and missing life events contributed to their overall role strain. These findings aligned with both Good's theory of role strain as well as findings by Fairchild 2003 and Perquito and Haynes 2018. The second categorical theme was health impacts. There were 2 thematic statements that summarized my research findings. The first was students suffered mental health impacts due to role strain and the responsibilities associated with each role. These findings aligned with both Giancanola et al. 2009 and Nickerson 2023. The second was students suffered physical health impacts due to role strain, specifically due to not having time to devote to their physical well-being. And these findings aligned with the literature from Cohen, Miller, and Demers 2019, Manwa et al. 2019, and Yusuf et al. 2020. And the third categorical theme was graduate program impacts. The 2 thematic statements that were summarized my research were an absence of consistent flexibility with faculty and administration practices led to students feeling unsupported. These findings aligned with Cross 1981 and Shelton 2021. And the second thematic statement was participants found value in staff communications, but found university resource information lacking. These findings were not in existing research, but were findings of my study. Moving on to the implications of my study, I will overview the stakeholders, the implications, and my recommendations for each. The first stakeholder group are graduate program administrators. My study has implications to these stakeholders because they are responsible for the policies and procedures that impact non-traditional female business graduate students. My recommendations for them are to convene a current student alumni panel to gain insight on student needs, and then to implement changes to minimize role strain based on the results of the panel. My recommendation is also to provide training to faculty on adult learning principles so that they can distinguish the difference between learning principles that they may be applying to undergraduate students or traditional students, and how adult learning principles relate more to our non-traditional female student population. The next one is to offer mental and health resources for students to manage the health implications that were a result of my study, and then to implement a mentor program for new students so that they have additional sources of support. The second stakeholder group are the program faculty, and my research has implications to this stakeholder group because they have direct contact with the non-traditional female students and have impact on the experience of these students. Understanding the findings of my study will give them additional insight on the effects to non-traditional female students. My recommendations for them are to adhere to standardized policies, to promote consistency across courses and terms, provide consistent flexibility and supportive policies and procedures, and then attend the aforementioned faculty training on adult learning and implementation in classroom practice. The third and final stakeholder group are women entering a graduate program. My study has implications for them because they can benefit from the challenges and experiences from the non-traditional female students who came before them. My recommendation for them are to build a strong support network, both personally and professionally, prior to even starting the program, and then participate in the new student mentor program to have an additional source of support while they are in graduate school. And finally, my distribution plan for my research. For the three stakeholders for program administration, I will share my research findings at national conferences. For program faculty, I will host an in-person presentation within my higher education institution. And then women entering a graduate program, I will incorporate a panel of current students and alumni at both prospective student and new student orientation and share my research findings. And then to develop the mentor program specifically for non-traditional female business graduate students, pairing them with a current non-traditional female student so that they are able to learn from their experiences and have that extra source of support. These are my references. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation and learn about my research. Thank you so much.